Welcome back to the 1965 Beetle. As you saw in the previous video, the rear bumper was damaged when I had it transported. So I'm going to tackle that, hopefully well. I'm sure you're going to see mistakes. Do not hesitate to comment on what I could have done better, or what maybe I can still do better. Just loosening up the bolts here with a little bit of lubricant. I'm going to try to save and renew or reuse everything that's original. I sped up the video here so that it's not as tedious. So first thing I did was strap it down to a board and tried to spread the tips out a little bit, just getting it a little bit closer. You can see that process here. So the first take kind of worked. It's not great. So I used a board on the inside to give a little bit more leverage and allow a little bit more pull. You can see how it's already starting to pull the bumper in there. Putting a good amount of tension on it. I do start beating with a brass hammer. Allows me to get a little bit of purchase on the crimps or the crumples of the bumper. I'm going to be using heat here shortly. But once again, just beating it a little bit more into shape. Gets better and better every time I go at it. Not the best camera angle here, but you get the gist. I'm beating the crevices out of the bumper, trying to straighten it out. It's getting better. Now I strap it down with a good amount of tension and put a little heat on it. Try to bend the metal a little bit, get rid of that memory. Here's what I get it to. I think it's a pretty good pullback. And this is it set on the Beetle. Notice the spacing's pretty good. Fits well. Crimp is mostly gone. Now it's onto the brackets. I did sandblast them. I didn't want to take too much off. I didn't know if these were originally chromed or not. So I just did a real light sandblasting. I'm going to paint them with zinc primer and a little bit of fake chrome paint. But they cleaned up pretty good. Once again, I didn't want to destroy them being original. I did save all the original bolts and the nuts for the bracket. The washers were destroyed, so I didn't reuse those. And here's a comparison before and after. Got rid of the heavy rust. And they certainly do look better. Here's all 4 brackets cleaned up. Now I used a little bit of marine grade zinc primer, both sides of those. 2 coats, let it dry overnight. I got that off Amazon. Seems like it's good stuff. The threads are really gummed up on the bolts and the nuts, so I did clean them with a wire oil. Didn't want to sandblast those. Sometimes it makes it a little bit harder to retap and die them, and I did. I retapped and dyed every bolt and nut, focusing on using original equipment that came off of it. Just a cleaning. Then I used a standard, I think it was 8mm by 1 1/4 pitch. Here's the brackets. Now I'm doing a little bit of wheel paint. Like I said, I didn't know if these were originally chromed. If they need to be chromed, I guess I could send them out. But they are hidden behind the bracket of the bumper on the Beetle. Okay, all done here. Now I'm going to reinstall it on the Beetle. Before I do that, I take one chance to tap out the bolt holes that are in the bumper of the Beetle. See me doing it here. Nothing difficult about reinstalling the bumper. Like I said, I'm sure I made some mistakes. I love hearing about it. I'm not proud. I'm sure there's things that could have been done better. But through these pictures, you'll see that the bumper looks exponentially better. It's not perfect, but I didn't want to go overboard and maybe remove some of the original chrome that was already there, or still there. And I certainly didn't want to go crimping it the other way. You notice the muffler tips are really bad. I'd love to get some original parts for those, knowing that this Beetle's so original. Once again, I'm looking for that stuff or advice on all of that. Putting these brackets on, there's not much to talk about. Reinstalling the bolts with a little bit of anti-seize, and the nuts on the bottom, after tapping and dyeing them, they cleaned up well, nice and tight. It's almost silly here showing me reinstalling this. There's nothing special, but I'll go through it very quickly and I'll show you the end result. But mostly, I'm looking probably next to try to buff out some of the paint and clean up the interior, and I have no idea where to start with that. I said before, it has had a respray in the rear of it, maybe in the front too. I'll get some better pictures on the next video. Some of the rubber seals are perished, and from what I understand, there's a big quality difference on what you can buy. And knowing how nice and original this thing is, I want to try to get the best. So, not exactly sure where to get them from, but I'll be looking at the comments and hopefully learning a lot over the next few days. Okay, that's it for now. Here's the last picture of the bumper. You can see that it does look a lot better. The spacing's good between the bumper and the fenders. Looks a lot straighter. You can see the center. There's a slightly noticeable crimp still. Well, that's all for now. See you next time.